Morning Blue Jays fans, and welcome back to the ride, because today's episode of the Blue Jays Report begins somewhere between departure gates, rolling suitcases, and that slightly surreal feeling you get when baseball news follows you onto the motorway. I'm your host, Craig Borden, and for once I'm not in my usual comfortable setup at home. I'm on the road, heading towards Anaheim, California, juggling real life and baseball obsession in equal measure, because even when work calls, Blue Jays baseball has a habit of tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "We need to talk." There's something fitting about that, because this team, right now, feels like it's in transit too, suspended between what it has been and what it desperately wants to become. As the miles tick by and the scenery changes, the Blue Jays themselves feel restless, like a club pacing the room, glancing at the clock, knowing the window is still open but also aware that time doesn't slow down for anyone. Rumors swirl, possibilities flicker in and out of focus, and the front office seems to be quietly surveying the landscape, deciding which hills are worth charging and which traps are best avoided. This is the part of the season where nothing official happens, yet everything feels possible, and that tension is exactly what keeps fans hooked. If you're enjoying the journey so far, take a second to like the video, share it with another Blue Jays fan, and make sure you're subscribed to the Blue Jays Report, because this is where we ride out the uncertainty together. One name that keeps echoing around the league like a loose bat rattling in the dugout is C.J. Abrams. The Washington Nationals, a franchise that currently feels like it's tearing down the walls to see what still stands, have already moved on from their biggest trade chip, and suddenly the spotlight has swung towards their all-star shortstop. Abrams has quietly built a reputation as one of the more dependable young players in baseball, posting solid batting averages year after year, flirting with 20 home runs, driving in runs with a calm confidence, and playing shortstop with a smoothness that makes difficult plays look routine. He's done all of this while playing for a team that hasn't exactly been spoilt for meaningful September baseball, which raises an intriguing question about what he might look like on a club that genuinely expects to win. The idea of C.J. Abrams in a Blue Jays uniform is the kind of thought that makes fans sit up straighter. It's not just about the numbers, though those matter, and it's not just about the all-star appearances or the steady WAR totals that quietly confirm his value. It's about control. Abrams isn't a rental. He's arbitration eligible, tied down until 2029, and that makes him a long-term solution at a premium position. The Blue Jays have lived in a state of uncertainty at shortstop for too long, and while some will immediately shout about existing options, baseball has a way of reminding us that depth is never a bad thing, especially when October dreams are involved. Of course, fantasies come with price tags, and this one would not be cheap. The Nationals wouldn't just hand over a cornerstone player out of generosity. Prospects would be demanded, and not the spare parts either. Names like JoJo Parker or Aurelvis Martinez would be part of that uncomfortable conversation, the kind that forces a franchise to decide whether tomorrow's promise is worth sacrificing for today's opportunity. That's the gamble, isn't it? You push your chips into the center of the table, knowing full well that the house doesn't guarantee anything, but also knowing that playing it safe rarely leads to parades. A move like this would be a clear message that the Blue Jays are not content with simply being competitive, but are actively chasing something bigger, something louder, something that echoes all the way to October. While the shortstop discussion stirs the imagination, another chapter seems to be quietly closing. Chris Bassett, a pitcher who embodied reliability in a sport obsessed with velocity and flash, appears destined to continue his career elsewhere. Bassett was never about spectacle. He was about turning up, taking the ball, and giving you innings when you needed them most. Season after season, he chewed through lineups, posting respectable eras, collecting wins, and offering a stabilizing presence in a rotation that often leaned on him more than it probably should have. His time in Toronto felt like a perfect marriage of necessity and professionalism, but baseball, as ever, is unsentimental. Reports suggest interest from teams like the Cubs and the Braves, clubs that understand the value of experience when the pressure mounts. It's hard not to feel a pang of disappointment at the thought of Bassett wearing a different uniform, because players like him don't just fill stat sheets, they fill clubhouses. They set tones. They remind younger arms what it means to compete every fifth day. Still, if this is goodbye, it's one that comes with gratitude rather than regret. He gave the Blue Jays exactly what they asked for, and sometimes that's all you can hope for in this game. As one door seems to close, another swings open, and this one leads across the Pacific. Kazuma Okamoto arrives in Toronto carrying both expectation and mystery in equal measure. The contract suggests belief, the highlights suggest potential, but the reality is that no projection system can truly capture what happens when a player crosses leagues, cultures, and styles of play. Okamoto was a force in Japan, a hitter who punished mistakes and carried himself with the air of someone who expected to be feared. Now, he steps into a Blue Jays lineup that could desperately use another source of power and presence. The projections, predictably, are all over the place. Some see a seamless transition, envisioning him replicating his dominance and immediately becoming a middle-order threat. Others are more cautious, suggesting a period of adjustment, a learning curve shaped by different pitching styles and relentless scouting. The middle ground feels more realistic, and frankly, more than acceptable. A batting average in the mid-.250s, 25 home runs, and around 70 runs driven in would represent a significant contribution, especially if it comes from the lower half of the order. That kind of production lengthens lineups, forces pitchers to think twice, and turns innings into marathons rather than sprints. What makes Okamoto particularly fascinating is not just the bat, but the glove. The footage shows a third baseman with quick reactions, a strong arm, and a willingness to throw his body around to make a play. Defense has a rhythm of its own, and third base in Toronto has seen its share of turbulence. If Okamoto can bring stability there, while also offering legitimate power, the signing could quietly become one of the most important moves of the season. Spring training will tell us plenty, and it's hard not to circle his name as one to watch closely when games start to count for something again. At moments like this, when the roster feels like a puzzle still missing a few key pieces, it's worth remembering why we follow this team so obsessively. It's not just about the final result, though that matters. It's about the speculation, the debates, the shared hope that this could be the year everything clicks. If you're enjoying these conversations and want to be part of them all season long, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the Blue Jays Report, because this channel exists for exactly these moments of anticipation. As I continue this trip, balancing work commitments with stolen moments of baseball analysis, it feels fitting. The Blue Jays are traveling too, not physically, but emotionally and strategically, moving from one version of themselves towards another. Whether that journey includes a blockbuster trade for a shortstop, a farewell to a trusted arm, or the emergence of a new star from overseas, one thing is certain. This team is not standing still. And neither are we. So I'll leave you with this. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think C.J. Abrams would look like in Toronto Blue? How much faith do you have in Kazuma Okamoto's transition? And how will you remember Chris Bassitt's time with the club if this really is the end? I'll be on the road for a bit, but the conversation never stops. Until next time, from wherever I happen to be, this has been the Blue Jays Report. As always, let's go Blue Jays.